All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course, where chat, for some reason, is not putting itself below the video so that I can push that tab to the side. And so my hope is that I can fix that. Otherwise, I'm going to have to reformat a little bit the way that I'm doing this. I'm going to try, though. I'm going to try to reload it, and hopefully it's working. It's still not working. That's a little bit of a problem. I'm doing the best that I can, everyone. We have a little bit of a technical difficulty. I don't know if it's my problem or Rumble's, but I suspect that it's Rumble's problem because normally that is a thing. I'll have to drag this aside. Okay, unfortunately, I have to have that a little bit wider at the moment. So if I look like I'm not looking into my camera all the time, there's a reason for that because I literally can't. I've got chat over to the side. We have Trip Boom saying, hey, Bacon. Hey, Salty. Uninformed Citizen. Fuck YouTube. Mrs. Tag, good morning, Trip. And Sigilstone replying as well, good morning, Trip. By the way, the live stream the other day had over 100,000 views between live and non-live on Rumble. Rumble actually rewards me for my talent, so I feel happy about that fact. We've got a lot to talk about today, though, so we won't talk too much about YouTube's apparent incompetence and its lagging support now that they're forcing people to watch ads or do crazy shit. We got all sorts of stuff to talk about. Of course, war updates. That'll be a main bit of news. You can live update that, though, because basically every legacy site has that. Just keep in mind that you're reading propaganda. So it's probably better to tune into a third-party content creator analyzing it for you because, you know, we have the time to parse through that shit. James Flowers, looks like sleep kicked you in the teeth. Interesting. Rumble is actively hindering Trump supporters in their reach. Well, not me. I get about 5 times as much airplay on Rumble as I do on YouTube at this point on some videos. On the mainline videos, again, the engagement is relatively the same with regards to my main uploads. Same with BitChute, same with Odyssey. These sites actually reward me for existing and having talent. YouTube does not. YouTube hates talent. They want to sign people up under corporate deals so that they can't speak freely. Look at those little foot beans. I'm having fun. Pokeslasher, piss never changes. When atomic fire rained down on little Donnie, those who survived did so in my great hands. We'll also be talking about McConnell. He's decided to be a traitor to the Republic again. But that's nothing new, so it's not exactly news. It's just an interesting topic. Going against Hawley, warning his fellow GOP senators that you best not be backing his attempt to get rid of Citizens United now. You get a lot of money from that. Is there any more of a stark display of the Uniparty's grift, really, than what McConnell is saying to his fellow GOP senators? Don't you dare back that. You'll face incoming. Wah, spoon, bonus points if you get the quote. Spoon, like with salad fingers, maybe. Yeah, Glitch McConnell. Fucking turtle. Yeah. Cryohazard is correct. Yo, Lil Donnie. That posting was great. Unfortunately, Ron Perlman decided to block me on Twitter, so I can't see his piss posting anymore. Alan Smithy, milk lemonade, around the corner fudge is made. And then we've got to talk about Leongatha, of course, the mushroom poisoning case that I've talked about before. It turns out that my surmisation was correct. It appears that the woman in that particular case, Erin Sellers, I believe her name was, did probably kill her former in-laws with poisonous mushrooms. In one of the worst mushroom poisonings of modern history, by the way. Generally speaking, it's, one kid wandered out in the woods, thought the mushroom looked tasty. It's like, oh, I like mushrooms, and ate it and died. Give you liver failure, actually, Amanita phalloides. So we'll be talking about that. Josh Palillo, hey there, funny magic man. Have you ever heard of a YouTuber named Wendigoon? He's done several videos on the forbidden and banned Bible books. I have actually heard his name brought up before. I haven't watched his stuff. The Grizzly, I saw a really interesting video about an upcoming plague of mental illness on the scale of the Black Death. Your thoughts on the crazy apocalypse? Look up the dancing plague. We've already had that before. Maxwell JW stopped over to Anomaly's Twitter page. He's now saying everyone, including DeSantis, is a puppet. Not surprised if he becomes an accelerationist. Oh, he's lashing out at DeSantis now, too, to try to save face because DeSantis quite clearly is not going to win. He's just blackpilled. He expects Trump to be the nominee, lose, and so he's trying to save face. What he should be doing is doing what I do and tell people, number one, you should self-improve. Something about your life. Drop one vice, build one new skill, do one good thing for yourself. Maybe it's lose 10 pounds. Maybe it's gain 10 pounds. You know, some people do have anorexia or something. Challenge yourself to be a little bit better. Just marginally. That's all you need to do. That's number one. Politically speaking, if everyone were to knock on one door, you'd probably haul in an extra 500,000 voters. You could do that in 24 hours' time with virtually no effort. Just goddamn fucking go and do it. I'm thinking about going and knocking on doors and ballot harvesting myself prior to the election, actually. Not in Vermont, though. It would be pointless there in such a blue state. But New Hampshire, considering that Biden has decided to backstab them and won't even be on the ballot in the primaries, yeah, New Hampshire is definitely flippable to red. Third man, will Islam ever grow up or be barbaric forever? It depends on the sub-school of Islam. It's sort of like with Christianity or elements of Judaism or any other religion, really. Pete2778, have you seen the document leaked from Israel saying that Gaza is to be emptied and the USA, Canada, and Europe are slated to take them all as refugees? I believe that draft document actually mainly talks about Egypt taking them as refugees. It's possible, but they've disclaimed the document and said it was just a draft copy. Sigilstone17. How did Halloween go at the Hexen household? Did the great Dolomite bring you plenty of West End prime bitches? Yeah, I definitely did watch the Great Dolomite Charlie Brown special. We didn't really do that much for Halloween. I couldn't even find a fucking pumpkin. Like normally the plant shop that's in the Winkelcentrum, like the town center, they have various Halloween decor. They had like a handful of little gourds and that's all. So I couldn't even find any. They had a display at the Jumbo, but they didn't have any pumpkins on sale or anything like that. So it was a big problem. Trip boom, clank clank, piss off YouTube. Swamp Donkey, we need to ban dual citizenship in government office. Immediately deport to the other nation and revoke citizenship. Hashtag stand with Massey. No, just force them to choose which nation they want to have citizenship with. It's okay if they have some sort of dual citizenship, the average person, but if they're taxpayer funded, they shouldn't. Absolutely. The Agal faces, why leeches are the last to drop. Happy Christmas. Leeches are the last to drop. I don't know what that reference is, actually. Wasted Bonehead, good morning from the grave. Our bony friend is here, our zombie. Summoned by evil necromancy and black magic. Anyway, we'll get to the news. Israel-Hamas war live updates. Biden calls for humanitarian pause. I talked about this morning. Biden is making making a gamble. It's either going to pay off fairly well or it's a big ass mistake. I think what the Biden admin is expecting is right now most Americans are on board with Israel. Hamas attacked first and, Jewish babies in the oven and stuff like that, much of which is not true. It's war propaganda, but some of it is true. And so right now, most Americans support Israel. What I think Biden is expecting is that as the war drags on, because it's taking place almost entirely within the confines of Gaza, what you're going to end up with is reporting mainly dead Palestinian kids and shit like that, and bombing refugee camps. Over time, people will get war exhaustion. So right now, it's maybe like 65-35 or something in favor of Israel as far as the U.S. public, which is the only public he cares about because of re-election concerns. But he expects that to narrow and narrow and narrow and possibly go in the other direction come election day. What Biden, I think, is doing by proposing a humanitarian pause, which is something that even members of his own party have called out. Like Hillary Clinton said, well, that would be wonderful. It would allow Hamas to rearm. He's going against even the neolibs within his own party on this one. I think it's for strategic reasons. I don't think that it's for reasons related to the broader strategy of defeating Hamas or anything like that, but rather re-election chances. I think that he expects that the American public will eventually sour on the issue. And I think that this is a swing away from Ukraine as well, because he's beginning to lose ground on that also. And so he's like, well, sorry, Ukraine, bye. You can fend for yourselves. I know that we cast this as the great patriotic struggle of our time, but we've got other concerns now. Now we've got to look at Israel. By the way, please pause the bombing for a few weeks. I think that Biden's hoping that there's another big Hamas attack. Then the U.S. can really unleash force in the region, have a war. He gets to be a wartime president. I think it's what he wants. Eric Basil, think Hunter still boofs his drugs? I don't know. I don't actually know what that is. I may be totally ignorant. Shoves him up his ass or something? I'm not sure. Irma Gersh, you should debate Cenk while he is running. 0% chance that he would be willing to come on my show. He'd get flatlined and he knows it. Alan Tanase, why did Obama marry Big Mike? Because he was a Transformer fan. Oh, God. F6F Hell Dweller sent $2. No comment, thank you. Neopup, why do anti-gun politicians pound their chest when extreme legislation has no chance of passing? Do you think it's for donations? Well, keep in mind where they're from. The average far-left politician who's really anti-gun is from a safe blue district. They have to lean far-left on issues. This has also become a problem for the Dems in general, to an extent the GOP and even the LP as well. You've got a national platform that has to be moderated in order to appeal to people in swing states. But the candidates that are being fielded, at least at home, tend to be much, much less on the fence with regards to issues. They tend to be more extreme. This is the case for the so-called extremist populism of the Freedom Caucus, certainly the leftoids, the Geek Squad, and other groups as well. The neocons and neolibs do the same thing. S. Reardon Financial. The punchline of the Scam the Navy joke from the other day was Scandinavia. Oh, it went over my head. Meisner Flux, Ron Pearl Necklace Man, guest stars in an episode of the epic Highlander series, plays a con man who convinces other immortals to take up pacifism, lulls them into complacency, then kills them, foreshadowing his leftism. Sounds rather fitting, yeah. Wow, what do you think Israel needs to do to maintain PR? That's the problem. There's no real way to do it. As long as Hamas uses human shields, Hamas is effectively invulnerable. Israel can only empty the Gaza Strip completely, forcing people out through the Rafah Strait into Egypt and thence. Re-annexing it in the process, they will be condemned for that. But in the long run, because they're a nuclear state, Israel would stabilize. The problem is that you've just dispossessed several million people of their homes, and probably it causes Iran and Syria and these other nations to attack you. It would cause a major regional conflict. It would be a very prolonged, very deadly war. In the end, the victors would write history, and it's not entirely clear what would happen, who the victor would be at this point. Not a banned account. How soon will the 2024 USA mass layoffs start? I don't know, actually. It will probably start, though. And what are the odds of a USA draft? Draft women, too? Yeah, you would think that the equal rights defenders would want the draft to apply to people with boobs and vaginas as well. I personally don't. I disagree with the existence of a draft. I think that as long as our military is functioning fairly well, there will always be enough lifeblood in it, so we won't need to draft anyone. And a drafted military will underperform because a lot of the people are there unwillingly. An all-volunteer military is superior, generally speaking, in terms of morale. It has an advantage over a conscripted military. But we shouldn't be fighting many of the conflicts we've been in the last half century anyway. So naturally, I don't support the draft. I don't think they'll reinstate it. I think that people just worry anytime there is a war that they will reinstate it. I mean, we heard this with Iraq. We heard it with Afghanistan. We heard it with Syria. And it never really happened. So I don't think that's actively in planning at the moment. At this point, they'd probably have to have 50-year-olds fighting on the front lines. Wow, lose-lose situation then. Fucking sucks. Gotta clank on. Yeah, I mean, it's not lose-lose. Israel isn't going to get wiped off the face of the earth or something like that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that PR-wise, if you completely debilitate Hamas, you've only done so by emptying the Gaza Strip, which would be a mass displacing of people. You would end up with a war crimes tribunal potentially. You'd be shielded by the U.S., but I mean, the UN would condemn you. A lot of the Western allies would be unhappy with it, very unhappy, potentially cut trade ties, etc., and it would be a problem. If you don't do that, then you end up pit bombing a bunch of civilians, which is happening right now. And again, what do you see when you watch legacy media or like new tech coverage? It's 95% dead Palestinian kids. Because Israel, while it's still being bombarded, Hamas is not capable of doing the kind of damage that the IDF can do. And that really has become their problem, which I warned of over a week ago. And a lot of people dogpiled me. I lost hundreds of subscribers for pointing out the problem inherent in the situation, simply pointing out pragmatism. Again, I don't take a side. I do not care if Israel destroys Hamas. I wouldn't care if Netanyahu got his block knocked off tomorrow. These people, in my opinion, all by and large are insane. But there is definitely a shift in optics. And I warned that this would happen. It's happening now. It's going to continue to happen. And as far as geostrategy goes, Israel appears to be up its own ass and not really understand what the fuck it's doing at the moment. And Netanyahu is partially to blame for that situation. The Grizzly, we know your favorite Halloween stuff. What's your favorite Christmas and winter holidays movie? Mine's Christmas Vacation. I really like Year Without a Santa Claus. I love those old campy stop-action movies that they made with the little felt puppets and shit. Just fucking love them. Jack Frost, Year Without a Santa Claus, fucking Rudolph, Frosty the Snowman, all of those things. I think those are the best ones. If anything that was narrated by Burl Ives, I'm a fan of. There's probably about a dozen movies that fit into that category. Deus Flex. Do you think the Arab states will eventually be pressured by their respective populations to declare war on Israel, or will they ultimately be deterred by the Samson option? That remains to be seen. Can't really give you an answer. Unfortunately, we've crossed a lot of Rubicons in the last year, haven't we? In the U.S., legally speaking, the Trump indictment and so forth. Certainly with foreign policy, the first time since the 1970s. This is possibly prior to Israel being a nuclear state. The last time they were in this kind of engagement, the rules were different. The game was just played differently. It was the middle of the Cold War. This time, it's different. We're in a globalized world. I mean, we're on an uncharted territory. G-Phaser. U.S. military is woke anyway. Why bother? Well, I mean, most of the members of the military aren't woke. It's just their instructional bullshit material. F6F Helldweller. You seen the FBI reports on the Israelis they arrested on 9/11 and the links to Mossad and Israelis posing as art students given construction passes in the World Trade Center? Some of that, I believe, was debunked, but I can't weigh in on that fully on a YouTube live stream. I believe that is verboten on this platform. Suck duck. Christians that defend Israel outright for biblical reasons probably never read or skip over Revelations 2:9. Yeah. Eric Basil. What did Hicks do for Halloween? Pumpkin. Lol. There's vids of Gen Z worried about draft and one saying to draft the MAGA crowd instead because he's a pansy. Yeah, I mean, the draft wouldn't work that way. Basically, you have to be really wealthy and bribe your way out of it if there's a draft. Thankfully, I'm 35. I think they'd be taking many of you before they took me. Wow, Hamas does do major damage to Israel in the PR department. Yeah, they're winning the PR war. And that's what a lot of people don't even fucking understand. SP Elite worked with a guy that looked like a gay version of you, Sticks. Guess you could call him a bundle of sticks. P.S. Hassan and H3 podcast is over because of Israel. Oh, a song got banned or something? No. Alan Tenaz, why did the chicken cross the road? Because there were too many joggers on the other side. Good morning, clankers. Jesus. Charles Bankster, Rumble always waits until you've been live for 15 minutes before sending the notification. Yeah, well, YouTube doesn't send it at all. So, yeah, choose your poison. Dark World Excel. With military requirement numbers down for the first time in decades due to the woke left's campaign combined with a possible three-front war, Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, with the elite disconnect seems to be likely now. I do not believe there will be a draft. Fish Dude, in your opinion, how does the Israel conflict end? With a lot of people dead, which is unfortunate. There'll be dead Jews. There'll be dead Palestinians. There'll be dead hostages from various parts of the world. And unfortunately, I don't really see an end to the conflict. And Israel could go all in, force them out, pay off the Egyptians or something like that. But I mean, they still have that border with the Sinai. So I don't know if it changes anything. Scrumpy, Jesus loves bacon. Everyone loves bacon. Joe Hoffman, Wom to all. Hope all have a great day. Clank. Pete, 2778. Have DM'd you Israeli docs on X. USA, Canada, and Europe planned as taking refugees. Egypt only a temporary stop and to be heavily bribed as an incentive. I did see that story. Yes, that was what I was referring to. Eric Basil, last laugh too. Already served too. Can't get me. Yeah, I don't think they would want me in the military. I don't think that would be very good. I don't think I would fit in very well, other than I'd be the one crazy soldier that ate the MREs and actually liked them, so I wouldn't complain about the food at the very least. Lord of the Ree, just like some sects of Christianity, maybe I missed something, but I don't know of any sect of Christianity that endorses incest, rape, and murder, not necessarily in that order. Study history. You'll find plenty of that in the papacy especially. Sigilstone 17. Pause the bombing? Yeah, bombing hospitals and refugee camps is pretty paused. Yeah, it's become a problem. Wasted Bonehead Sticks. The Middle East is a shit show. Has been for decades now, probably longer. Honestly, wish we could just mind our own damn business. That's my proposal. Stay out of it. We're not solving anything. Sending money to Israel or aid to Gaza, it doesn't even make a difference, so... Swamp Donkey, the chosen nation doesn't care. They're led by what is basically the Israeli alt-right. They will fight till the last American. Hashtag fuck the Middle East. Neutrality is based. Sigil, if we drafted a ton of furries into the military, we'd have to be very careful with how we tell soldiers to man that foxhole. Pepe Payne. If White House goes through with this anti-Islamophobia plan, do you think it will reverse some of the LGBT crap that has hit so hard? You know, because Islam believes in that stuff. No, they'll just continue to be hypocrites. 1 Adam 12 Roger. The Wall Street Journal says the economy is great and wonders why are Americans in such a rotten mood. Lots of fluff pieces for Bidenomics lately. You have noticed probably. Our new 349 commented earlier. Oh, my apologies if I forgot one. I'm trying to... This is off on the side this time instead of being underneath where it should be. Commented earlier. Let's see. I'm not seeing it, though. No, I'm not seeing any prior super chat that you made. Or Rumble rant, rather. Wasted Bonehead Sticks. Could Israel develop into another forever war? It already is. It's been going on for the last 6 decades. Matt G. Hammond, can you start calling Hassan Piker Hamas Piker? Oh, I don't give a shit about his political proclivities because he's completely irrelevant to me. Mopey Hornet, hey Sticks, what was the first video game you played? If I remember correctly, I played Duck Hunt with a rich friend back in the day, back when I was like 5 or something, 6, somewhere around there. Apache, daily reminder. I don't think I can say that on YouTube, actually. And that's actually only the case with one particular sect of Judaism, ironically. Anyway, we'll get to the next news story. Mitch McConnell's decided to be a traitor. By the way, I am possibly coming down with something. I feel a little bit like throaty today, if that makes sense. I've got shit to do, so I can't afford to get sick. I got too little time. Mitch McConnell warns GOP senators they'll face incoming if they back Hawley bill to limit corporate giving in campaigns. This is his warning to his fellow GOP neocon senators. The problem is you have a fairly beefy number at this point of populists within the House. You only have a few in the Senate. So Mitch McConnell still sort of lords over things, even though, number one, he's the minority leader for a reason. Number two, he's an asshole. Number three, he's practically fucking dying. He's like Dianne Feinstein. but he still will come out and he'll warn them, don't you dare back this bill. This bill specifically would simply undo Citizens United for the average corporation, taking corporate money out of politics. I praise Josh Hawley immensely for being a Republican that's actually cognizant of the fact that that's a good idea. Normally, every few years, the Dems bring up the concept, and then they shit can it. They load it with riders and shit like that. Hawley is the first person in a very long time to make a concerted effort to actually undo Citizens United. While I don't have a problem with corporations donating to candidates, there should be a cap on it, number one. That cap should apply to both candidates, PACs, and political parties at the state and local level, number two. Number three, it should be all publicly accessible. We should know who's funding who. That's all I'm asking for. If you own a business, and so you have more skin in the game than somebody who does not own a business, I don't begrudge you the right to double dip with regards to campaign donations. So you've got your own personal capped, issuance of money, and then you have another one, again, capped, that comes from your business. That's fine, especially if it's a small business or something. It's not publicly traded. This only has to do with publicly traded businesses. So this involves like Google or George Soros's Open Society Foundation or something like that. It doesn't involve your local drugstore. Unless it's part of a subsidiary of a larger chain. It's only the traded ones. It's absolutely legal for Congress to do this. Citizens United is not set in stone. It's not a sacred cow. And thank you to Josh Hawley for being the sane man in the room for doing this. That being said, is it DOA? Yeah, probably, because a lot of the Republicans take that corporate money. McConnell is basically just reminding him of that fact. In fact, if you listen to his quote, you're supposed to, well, you've gotten a lot of money from these interest groups, and it'd be a shame if you didn't win again, basically. It'd be a shame if you voted for this, because if the Democrat opponent you're facing didn't vote in favor of it, then you might not win. Well, then what's the fucking goddamn point? If win at any cost, but, sell your soul, I suppose. Well, if you're a soulless party, then why vote for you? Would be my particular opinion. I think they should do it. Pull the trigger, Josh. Just go forward with it. Let Mitch McConnell down it and then see how well it works, because it'll be a bunch of neocons that are voting against it. It'll be very, very funny, by the way. This is why I'm not a Republican. There should be corporate donations only to the level of something that's low and capped. I don't care, again, if somebody who is employing a bunch of other people donates extra money to political campaigns. But there needs to be a hard cap on it. There need to be constraints, and there needs to be transparency. Simple as. That would be perfectly fine by me. The Agal faces. Does being a Puerto Rican Aspie save me from the draft? I do believe Puerto Ricans are exempt from the draft due to territorial status, if I remember correctly. Paul Zabo. Boom. A la kabam clank. Ree. F6F Hell Dweller, a picture of Israelis in the World Trade Center with BB-18 fuses. Yeah, I won't comment further. Wow, waiting for Cocaine Mitch's son to finally sunset. Yeah, everyone is hoping that he croaks, including probably most of the other Republicans in the Senate. Alan Tenaz, you ever splash some vinegar on your eggs? If so, thoughts? Nah, bullshit. No, I eat eggs many ways, mainly with ketchup, unless they're deviled, or hard-boiled. And by the way, I do not salt my hard-boiled eggs because I don't understand the appeal. Mike Rindau, B4E. Coffee before email, I think he means with the emojis. Let's see. I've got some, again, I've got a formatting issue over there on Rumble. I'm really sorry about that to everyone on Rumble. I'm trying to compensate. Our new 349. McConnell is owned by China. His wife and her family are Chinese operatives. Entirely possible. There are people that allege that. By the way, we've got a big news story here. This is something that I spoke about a couple of months ago. And since then, there's been an ongoing police investigation into this. This is the mushroom murders, where we're calling them murders now, which I suspected was likely the case. I'll get into why. In Leongatha, over in Australia. What was the name of the perp, by the way? Aaron Patterson. I was correct earlier. Aaron Patterson decided to serve up a delicious lunch. It was a beef Wellington with mushrooms to some guests, former in-laws, actually. Sort of a, making up sort of meal. Beef Wellington. Okay. Anyway, she killed 3 people, supposedly inadvertently originally. And here's the problem. I had pointed out before on both live stream and standalone videos that the story that she was telling did not really make sense. You use Amanita mushrooms, very, very toxic, the destroying angel specifically. The mushroom that is most likely to kill you. Like I've done mushrooms before, and I don't just mean psilocybin. Psilocybin, technically you're getting high because it's poisoning you. Amanita muscaria is in a league of its own as being considerably more poisonous. Of course, it contains muscarine, not just muscimol, also ibotenic acid, which will make water taste like goddamn lemon juice if you drink it immediately after taking the mushrooms. It's not pleasant to ingest, although I found it very pleasant to be high on. I used Amanita. I used believe it or not, everyone, I used drugs back in my college days, quite a few of them, fucking LSD and mescaline and all of the others. Never touched the hard stuff, though. Ironically, I was never terribly into marijuana. I preferred psychedelics. I just wish I could add enough acid tabs to stay stoned on that for the rest of my life. That would have been fun. Anyway, speaking about other things, here's the problem. If you take an Amanita mushroom and cook it into a Beef Wellington accidentally, and I can't imagine that anyone would make that accident, the heat would cook off the muscarine and convert it into muscimol. Your guests would get high. They're not going to have organ failure. Not unless, I mean, if the Beef Wellington's half mushroom and everyone gorges themselves, it could probably cause some problems. The destroying angels compounds, though, are not entirely removed by the cooking process, which is why, of course, these people suffered from liver failure, and 3 of the 4 people died when she served them the Beef Wellington. Her story was that the next day she served the Beef Wellington to her kids. This was her official story for the police. And they didn't get sick, though, because they don't like mushrooms, so she scraped them off. What the fuck is the problem? All of that poison from the cooking process leached into the Beef Wellington. There is no possibility that a small child wouldn't at least be drastically sickened by the Beef Wellington. So either she lied, and that's a red flag, or she didn't lie, in which case, what the fuck is even going on here? Because it's literally an impossible scenario. In other words, she didn't give them the Beef Wellington, or she didn't give them the Beef Wellington. They would have gotten sickened. There's no possibility that the poison from that, and again, I say this as a relative expert in mycology. I've studied this on the amateur level since I was in high school. I used to spend my summers going and searching for mushrooms and sketching them and trying to identify them when I was a teenager. I've gone mushrooming a dozen times since I've been in the Netherlands. Wish I could go more. By the way, there's a hell of a lot more mushrooms here than there are in Vermont. I've eaten wild mushrooms. I've eaten fairy ring mushrooms. I've eaten boletus. Did see a morel once, but there was only one of them, so I didn't bother to pan fry it or anything. I've eaten all sorts of mushrooms. I know a lot about mushrooms. I know the major kingdoms, etc., the boletus, the poor mushrooms, the russula, and so forth, the Amanita family. I know what I'm talking about. I'm at least a semi-expert on the topic. You could safely go out with me in the woods. You probably wouldn't get poisoned by the mushrooms. She probably deliberately murdered these people. I have a feeling that she was. There's another element of the story. I'll get into that. The other part of the story that didn't make sense is she was saying, well, no, I bought the mushrooms. They were dried and they were from the store. But they never ended up tracing any contaminated mushrooms to any of those batches. Again, you would only need probably one of this particular kind of mushroom to drastically sicken and possibly kill people. But the odds of that are fairly low because mushroom farming in the commercial setting tends to be fairly well regulated. She went out into the wild. She had a dehydrator that she also threw in the landfill literally like the next day or something like that. I wonder why. And they managed to recover it. That's why she's in jail cell right now. She dehydrated the mushrooms. She deliberately poisoned the guests out of animus. That's it. But she didn't want to poison the kids. So they never ate the Beef Wellington. Or they did, but it was a different Beef Wellington without mushrooms. And she just said, oh, no, children, because she thought she had covered her tracks. I scraped off the mushrooms. Don't worry, they're not in the beef. But it was a different one. It had to have been. They would have been killed. They're little kids. Their livers and kidneys certainly could not take the amount of toxicity from the drippings of the goddamn mushrooms if the Beef Wellington had been served to them. They would have died. Absolutely. By the way, Norton, canned morals? Why the hell would you can the morels? I mean, I don't even use canned mushrooms, the normal ones, and those ones are cheap. I want to grow my own fucking mushrooms. I want to have a basement full of mushrooms. I know all sorts of shit about mushrooms, including in the occult sense. They're great and delicious, you know. Not many calories in them. You can basically marinate them and cook them just like a burger if you want to with the portobellos and some other large varieties. I've seen all sorts of, I've been posting on Twitter repeatedly about all the cool mushrooms that I've seen around here. Some of them are fucking gigantic, by the way. And there was a huge row of puffball mushrooms back in Rutland when I was there. And I thought maybe I should like pick some of these and eat it because they're edible, the common puffball. But I just let them, go to spore so that you can play with them because that's more fun. I don't know what they taste like. I can't imagine they taste very good. So as far as the Leongatha case, I was correct. The police have arrested her. There's a reason for that. They've got the evidence. They got that hydrator. They've got the toxicology report. They might have talked to the kids and the kids said, well, I never saw any mushrooms on it to begin with. I have a sneaking suspicion that she was just trying to do hush-hush thing. And so she didn't want the kids to rat her out, so she still served them the Wellington, but it was a different Wellington. Because, again, the poison from the mushrooms in the amount required to kill 3 adults and almost kill a 4th with liver failure. He had to get a fucking transplant. That amount of poison, there would have been enough seeped into the Wellington's juices that the kids, if they ate a slice, at the very least, they would have ended up in the hospital. There's no possibility otherwise. There is no other explanation. She fucking did it on purpose. I suspected that was the case when I found out about those elements of the case. Crossover maniac. Abraham's wife was also his half-sister. And then where did Cain's wife come from if his parents were the only people on earth besides his own parents? Whoops, pro-incest. So much for biblical inerrancy. Some Christians say that basically it was the Bible just doesn't bother mentioning the other people in the world. It's only tracing the Jewish lineage. So Cain married somebody, from a local tribe or something, some other group of people other than Adam and Eve. So there is a cop-out involved there. There's also one of the non-canonical books, actually, of the Apocrypha deals with that issue. Can't remember its name, though. It had to do with Eve. Suck duck. Any way we can decouple politicians from buying and selling their stock. Ironically enough, Elizabeth Warren actually is on the forefront of that issue. And to her credit, other than a handful of IBM stocks, she has chosen mainly mutual funds and things like that. She actually, I have to give fucking Elizabeth Warren credit, which makes me almost want to vomit all over myself. She doesn't do the stock trading thing. She actually has held to her guns on that one particular issue. She is still massively rich, so I don't feel sorry for her for not being able to day trade. Dark coefficient. Puerto Ricans are not exempt from the draft. The whole reason we were given citizenship was to be drafted. See the Foraker Act. Oh, then I stand corrected. Wow. Crossover maniac. Adam and Eve, the first self-aware humans. I mean, not that I believe in the story of Adam and Eve, but... Zeranx, is it possible they built a resistance to the Poison Princess Bride style? No, I don't think you can do that with Amanita mushrooms. Mr. Twisted Frenzy, since you brought it up, what is your all-time favorite mushroom to eat for food, not for the high? Since I like to make stir-fry shiitake, I think, would be my favorite. Yeah. But portobellos, man, if you cook them the right way, they are really, really good on a burger. In fact, I'm going to be making hamburgers tomorrow. I'm thinking about getting a couple of them because they're just greatest thing ever. Wow, not financial advice. Rumble stock at 461. Buy low. Alan Tenaz, I saw your mushroom burger video and it was legit. Yeah, it was delicious. BW, moral of the story. Mushrooms, ick, don't risk it. No, I can go out in the wild and pick mushrooms and eat them and not have to worry because I spent many, many, many hundreds of autistic hours familiarizing myself with the basic families, the structure of mushrooms, spore prints, and all these things. I will never die of mushroom poisoning. The destroying angel does have a distinct appearance. I think that the only cop-out she had was, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I picked wild mushrooms. And then she could claim they were in the button stage. So she was dumb and she thought it was the little white mushrooms from the store or something like that. But she pissed that away. She claims, no, they came from the store. I didn't pick any mushrooms. I'm sorry about the dehydrator with the mushroom spores all over it that I threw in the landfill. That's not suspicious at all. Greg Mullen, $4.99. No comment, thank you. I mean, Christ. Smirk808. The problem with letting any corporations donate is you can open endless shell corporations. Yeah, but I mean, how many shell corporations are you going to open? It's not going to be necessarily nearly as big of a problem as it currently is. If you've put most of the genie back in the box and it can stay there, I would let it go at that. I don't have a problem with private businesses donating to political campaigns. I just think it needs to be capped. It needs to be limited and transparent. Paul, I can prove Styx and Razor are two different people. I was the officer that checked Styx's ID when he left the Tampa International Airport. Razor was with him and Styx was in his iconic leather jacket. Interesting. Well, it's been a while since I've been through the Tampa airport. By the way, not a bad airport overall. The gunslinger, drafting Puerto Ricans wasn't the only reason we got citizenship. If that was the case, they wouldn't have built a naval base like Roosevelt Roads. By the way, the cat smells terrible again. She keeps getting gassy, and I don't know why. I didn't feed her any new food or anything like that. She's just nasty. Bayon 201, do you think there's the possibility of a Trump and Palin White House in 24? Hashtag Clank Nation. No, I think that he's not nuts enough to go with Sarah Palin. By the way, please send no more super chats. We're running above 40 minutes. I've got a bunch more super chats to get through and still several news stories. So please save your money and donate tomorrow or something. Wasted bonehead, Sticks, dead men tell no tales. I know. Anyways, Stick Wizard, I always thought mushrooms were eaten by Italian plumbers and made people grow to twice their size. Wahoo! That's actually Amanita muscaria that's being depicted there. That's the mushroom that I took. It was very fun. Although the last time I took it, I took a little bit too much, vomited all over the fucking place, and it was like sour mushroom vomit, so that wasn't fun, and was hallucinating. For some reason, I had my eyes closed, and all I could see, like in my mind's eye, was a picture of Australia zooming in and out and like soaring through my vision. It was delirium. Muscarine will do that. Musamol, on the other hand, if the mushrooms are properly processed, doesn't give you delirium. It gives you a psychedelic effect. It feels like Christmas, if that makes sense. I can imagine why they talked about reindeer flying. It makes you feel weightless. It makes you feel jovial. It makes things feel warm and glowy, and like you can like see the winter glow, basically. It's like edible Christmas. Disclaimer, I'm not telling you to use Amanita muscaria mushrooms, but if you are roughly my height and weight and take about 12 grams of proper dried material, depending on the batch, yeah, that's the effect that it has. Interesting, isn't it? I did drugs, lots of them. King of Biltong, good morning from Antons in Roanoke, Texas. Free shipping for your Biltong using code STICKS on www.landofbiltong.com and www.antonsusa.com. The official Clank Meat, hashtag Clank Nation. Yes, indeed. You can get your extra spicy Wagyu now, I believe, with the ghost pepper in it. So nobody beat me to making a review video of Anton's extra hot ghost pepper Wagyu, please. I want to claim that one for myself. I mean, I wish him well on making many sales, but just upload the recording after I manage to do mine when I'm back in the US, okay? I'm just asking for that one thing. Wasted Bonehead, missed my Rumble rant. Anyways, last super chats. Guess I'll take this chance to say I'm a clank on Sigil's stream on Saturday. Missed your Rumble rant. There is no, there's no other Rumble rant. See, that's the problem. I'm having issues right now with, Christ. Oh, there are a few here. Wasted Bonehead. Mitch McConnell is the reason I'm no longer a conservative. That and I find it impossible to support any political party. I find supporting individuals within said party to be wiser. Swamp Donkey. Any updates on Brandon Herrera? Let's go, Brandon. Apparently not. Sigil Stone, that beef Wellington she cooked must have been huge. Fed 3 people for the rest of their lives. Oh, that's some grave humor right now. That should have been Bonehead's joke. Yeah, but please send no more super chats because there are a few to get to here, and I want to at least briefly cover some of these topics. G-Phaser, if the draft was instated, what chance of drafted lefties will defect to fight anti-Israel forces? Pretty low, considering the training and the fear involved. Probably won't end well for them, but I'll find it funny. Ian, gonna do bear can donut burgers tonight. Bear can donut burgers. I have no clue what that refers to. You mean beer can? Like you maybe form it around the beer? I know that some people put like a beer can under a chicken and they prop it up and I guess it steams the inside of the chicken with the boiling beer or something. No, Simply Sarah did it once. I have no fucking clue. These are things that are beyond my pay grade as far as wanting to find out exactly what alchemy is going on in the kitchen. I've learned better than to put any food video or picture online that doesn't look just shy of perfect because people will crucify me as though I was Hitler. Size of Trump's hands at center of Supreme Court trademark case. Trump too small. A Democrat activist tried to trademark Trump too small to print on t-shirts after a crude joke made by Senator Marco Rubio in 2016. I've got to say something here. The trademark office bounced it. They wouldn't let him trademark it. I actually think that this is legit, that the trademark should go through. The Democrat activist actually has a point. This is a taxpayer-funded public figure, Donald Trump specifically. He is not even named by name, although it appears to conceive his image. It's just referring to Trump. Well, there's more than one Trump in the world. Why should a person not be able to trademark what is clearly a satirical image? I'm pretty sure that they've been trademarked before. I've had people sell fucking t-shirts with my shit on it, and even though the fact that it's my legal trademark, ad nauseum for quite some time. It's a real big problem. I've lost tens of dollars on their efforts, so thank you to them. There's a reason that I don't give a shit. There's plenty of legit merch links in the description. By the way, the books blog, that's also linked at the top of chat if you're watching on YouTube. It's still, as far as I'm concerned, it's still Halloween. It'll be Halloween 365 days this year because we've got an election to get to. It's getting spooky. Here's the thing. I actually think that you should be able to trademark this. It's an iconic moment. It doesn't physically name the person per se. It doesn't say Donald Trump. It just says Trump. It uses his image, but he's a public figure. He's a publicly funded public figure, and it's clearly satirical. I think that in this particular case, he should be able to market the goddamn shirt. I actually don't have a problem with that, and I don't understand why someone would. I mean, I think if someone would look cringe if they are going with a meme from the 2016 election at this point. I mean, what effect does it have? Who cares, basically? So the Supreme Court will be looking into that. I find that funny. When Elster sought to trademark the slogan, he was denied by the PTO, and the Trademark and Trial Appeal Board upheld the decision because the mark identified Trump without his consent. Yeah, but Donald Trump is a former president and current frontrunner, probably future president of the United States. Are we not allowed to, have shirts depicting him? I think that you should. There's plenty of Let's Go Brandon shit out there. It's not been trademarked, I don't think. You can't really own that. It'd be kind of difficult to convince them of that. But there's plenty of stuff out there, stickers and shit. I need some Let's Go Brandon stickers. It'd be funny to put them up in the Netherlands, like in a foreign country, and people are like, what? What does this even mean? Also, Elon Musk the other day on Joe Rogan's podcast, he said that Twitter was an arm of the government before he took over. So I just wanted to gloss that over really quickly just to point out the fact that the current owner of the site is telling everyone, hey, guys, it was basically nothing more than a propaganda apparatus there for a few years, which is funny because supposedly the Twitter papers weren't real. Well, you've got Elon Musk going to bat for the concept that, yeah, indeed, it appears to be real. He saw the internal memos and the emails and the Slack chats and everything else. I think he's probably the most qualified to speak on the issue. Now, I would like to ask something very briefly. Do you think it was just Twitter that operated as a government propaganda arm? If your answer is yes, then you are definitely naive enough for me to sell swampland in Florida to. I've got a bridge in London to sell you as well. I'd probably sell you pubic hair at that point. The fact is that if the government is engaged in that kind of propaganda, they're using as many sites as they can because otherwise it's less effective. That's not how you do propaganda, believe it or not. You're not supposed to half-ass it. You're supposed to go all in. If you're spreading propaganda and censoring people or encouraging their censorship, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, on Twitter. You're doing it elsewhere. We've gotten similar statements from Zuckerberg and from others within big tech. We know that this is going on. Sadly, that story has almost disappeared. Almost nobody remembers the fact that virtually all of big tech colluded with the Uniparty in order to shaft Donald Trump in the 2020 election. Very, very strange. Also very convenient. However, the story is probably going to come back as the general election begins in some months. Alan Smithy, one more super chat. You know you want it. Well, I love money because then I can buy food and shit like that. By the way, when I was back in the U.S., it was funny. This is just a personal story. I'll get briefly to Trump's polling in a minute because we still got a few minutes left. I like microwave burritos, generally speaking. I know they're not good for me, but once in a while, you just get lazy. You pop something in the microwave and you have a couple of fucking microwave burritos. They're delicious. There's a brand called Tina's, and I like the beef and bean ones. I don't eat any of the others. I don't like them very much. I don't like the extra spicy. I don't like the cheese and bean ones. Just the beef and bean burritos. But they didn't have them at the grocery store when I got back. I don't even know why I'm telling you this story. It's just, I don't know. Some people are interested. So I had to get chimichangas instead. I can't remember the company that makes them, and they're cheap as fuck. And basically, it's like putting like fatty slime in your body. But they taste good. And then my niece ended up taking a liking to them, actually, and she ate most of my chimichangas. I think I bought 4 8-packs of chimichangas in that whole period. Like 2 days before I leave, then the burritos get restocked finally. I'm like, oh, thanks. There's still a couple in the freezer back home right now. They're just waiting for me for spring. So thankfully, I have burritos again. Although I think they changed the recipe because for some reason it didn't taste the same as it did the last time I had them. They weren't quite as like beany, if that makes any sense. Like the flavor level was lower, sort of like, they diluted the actual flavorness somehow. Serve Profit 9, clank, motherfuckers, clank. Yeah, I figured that I would talk about burritos. This is you get the unexpected on this channel, by the way, in case you didn't notice. I like going off the rails and talking about weird shit because I can do it and nobody cares. Like some people's audiences, they expect them to take everything very seriously. Well, you're only here for crypto analysis. Tell me where the bull market is coming or something like that. But I'm a chucklehead, so I can get away with it and make dad jokes. Although I've noticed lately that some of you in my audience are making more of them than me. Hope you have a kid at least. Then you have a justification. Anyway, final news story. We'll get to something more serious. We're very mature adults in the room. As you can tell looking at me, I'm a hyper-mature individual. 2024 Republican presidential nomination. New GOP polling. Nobody cares about the Dem polling because Biden has run away with it. He's 70 points ahead. He's got the nomination unless he fucking drops dead or something. With Trump, people are still inexplicably pretending that he doesn't have it sewn up. I would like to point out he is now 0.1 away from having a lead in the aggregate of 46. That is I think that Donald Trump could win if his aggregated total was 46 points. That way he's in the mid 40s. He's got several other candidates that have double-digit support now. Haley and DeSantis. Well, Haley's close to it, but close enough. It counts. Ramaswamy's at almost 5. In a race where he's at 46 points, therefore, unless nobody else really shines, he would already win. But Trump's not at 46. He's at 46 points plus an additional a gap that is as large as DeSantis's aggregated total. So he has lapped the other candidates at this point. I declare Donald Trump to inevitably be the Republican nominee for 2024 unless he dies or they're nuts enough to do a brokered convention. Or he's incapacitated, he has a stroke or something like that. He becomes more like Joe Biden and he can't string a sentence together. That would be a little bit of a problem. Other than that, though, he's got it in the bag. Iowa is now probably out of the grasp of literally anyone else. Again, the problem for DeSantis, who would be the runner-up, is that Nikki Haley surged. She had a couple good debate performances. If she has a third one, really all that's going to happen is I think that their polling will invert. And that's my prediction. I think that at the third GOP debate, which is in, I don't know, a week or some shit like that, I'm not going to watch it. I think that Ron DeSantis will once again be kind of derpy and awkward. He doesn't have the greatest personality, and he's a manlet. I'm just joking, by the way. I realize that 5'9" is of average height. And Haley will do better than him. She will simply gobble up some of his support, and she will probably draw even or even surpass him. Ron DeSantis really at this point should not be in the race. I'm not saying this because I have Ron DeSantis derangement syndrome like the DeSantis Sims keep saying that I have. No, it's because, I mean, he could still have a political career, but he's fast approaching the point at which he won't. You do not want to get bested by Nikki Bomberon Haley. Nikki, I would nuke the world Haley. Nikki, the only reason I'm not the biggest warmonger in the race right now, Haley, is because Vivek Ramaswamy went completely off the chain and decided to tell the press that he thought it was a good idea to impale Hamas leaders' heads on pikes alongside the road. It's the only reason that Nikki Haley didn't have the most warmongering moment in her blighted pandering. If you get bested by Haley, I mean, there's nowhere to go but down. You could still run in politics. You could easily become a senator. Look, for Ron DeSantis fans, please understand something. As somebody who likes some of the decisions and shit that he's made, he still has a career afterwards, because if he runs for the Senate or something like that, the only opinion that counts are Floridian voters. They will support him. In the absence of Trump being involved, because it's not even a national race, he'd win. He'd become the senator from Florida, and he can stay there for the rest of his life. And you can pat yourselves on the head that Ron DeSantis is still in politics. If he chooses to go on his current course, he probably won't be capable of doing that. He'll be out of politics. He jumped the gun. He has like one last chance at this point to retire with dignity from that particular battle and go on to the next one. He's still got enough support in Florida, not enough to beat Trump. Have you seen the Florida polling? And that was some time ago when Trump, by the way, wasn't as ahead as he is now. I think that Trump will destroy the man's career if he's nuts enough to stand through Super Tuesday when Florida votes, because he loses his own home state. Nikki Haley is going to lose South Carolina. That's her home state. She's just hoping that Tim Scott gets out. He's at 3 points right now, so there's no reason for him not to. In fact, he's not even at 3 points. That's for South Carolina. He's at 1.7 nationally. Tim Scott's gone. Burgum's gone. Hutchinson's gone. Christie doesn't care. He's just in the race in order to ramble about how bad Trump is. Pence is gone. Ramaswamy won't last much longer. He was a flash in the pan. He'll stand it out for a little while, but, you know, in the end, what's going to happen is Donald Trump will be nominee. Wow, deep state poisons Trump to make it look natural. No, I think they would want to do it more obviously than that. If they're going to take a shot at Trump, it'll be a literal shot. That way it's on live streams and television and everyone gets to see his head blown off or something like that. They'll JFK him if it comes to that. They will try. Sigil Stone, no more super chats, but you didn't say no more rants. Missed when I said this, but I'll be doing an actual stream on Saturday, 7 p.m. Pittsburgh time. Good luck on your stream, my man. Anyways, I'm going to go offline. Keep in mind, tomorrow's Friday. I will be live streaming. By the way, in about an hour, there's supposedly a big-ass storm that's going to be bearing down on us. An hour and a half or so. It's that thing that came across the jet stream, like the weather bomb or the rain bomb or whatever bomb it's called. And it's like it's like almost like a mini cyclone is about to hit us. We're not near the shore, so we won't get as much damage here. But I expect to see some leaves and branches moving through the trees. Garbage knocked over. People be retarded like usual, and they'll leave their garbage cans out, like mine is in the yard. And so I'll just see them randomly when I go out tomorrow to the store all across the city, probably. It's really funny, actually, people do that. You know that the big storm is coming. Why'd you leave your trash out front? Doesn't even make sense. I see trash bags and trash cans and trash in general rolling around like tumbleweeds all over the place. The Dutch are the worst litterers I've ever seen. Normally, everything here is eco-friendly and a lot of environmentalism and stuff. They've got crews that go out and pick up the trash, which they need clearly. But litter bugs, oh my God, makes me pissed because in Vermont, we've got Green Up Day and stuff like that. So yes, I will be tomorrow here. I will be live streaming and hopefully a little bit higher energy, by the way. The cat last night woke me up a few times. And the wind woke me up a few times. And the baby woke me up a few times. I'm running on pure caffeine. If I seem high energy, it ain't because I'm naturally high energy right now. So hopefully a good night's sleep. It's been a few days. That's about all. Peace out.